So, guys, I want to do another tough video, and I want to talk about something that happened to me in high school where um, I had to do job training. And what that meant was that when you are part of a special needs program, or in special education, what happens is that, like no matter what, sometimes they have like certain things that you got to do. And sometimes it's stuff that's not really appropriate for somebody, and in my situation, I had to go to like, resource classes. That's almost like, like a study hall type of class, like every single year, every semester really. And it kind of made no sense really because it's like, it's kind of like, like why do I need to be in a class where I'm just like, just doing nothing for like 30 minutes? And then the other thing that I was involved in was I saw a speech pathologist, and it's almost like I didn't really need a speech teacher or anything like that, really, and I really didn't get anything out of that. It just turned more into a counseling session because I would just talk about my life. And then the last thing that I had was that I remember taking, I think it was called like vocational class, but what it was that they took you for 2 or 3 hours to work in like town and whatever, really. And it was kind of really stupid in my case because I actually had a job at that point. Like at 15, 16 years old, I was working at Bishop's Orchards in Connecticut, and actually I was doing really good job as an employee. And they even did things too, like they had me like clean the freezer at Bishop's Orchards. This is my regular job. So my regular part-time job was at Bishop's Orchard. I was cleaning the freezer, I was picking up carts, I was helping setting up stands. I was putting away wine and other things like that. Like I had a lot of responsibilities. Even like you're trusting, a kid who's underage with like alcohol and other things like that. But in my high school, like they were kind of like, okay, and they did the pooling thing, and the pooling means that you take everybody who has a disability and you're like, okay, we all got to do the exact same thing, really. So I remember like I worked at Pages Hardware for I think my entire time I worked at Pages Hardware, and it was kind of like very, very stupid in a way because again, why are you taking a kid that already has a job, that already knows how to function at a job, and putting him in this situation? It reminds me of something that happened to my brother. Like he went to Chapel Haven, and my brother, it's just as smart as me, really. But the thing about it is that he took classes on how to wash his hands, really, and he's like, wait, when he doesn't even need that. That's not like appropriate for him. So it was kind of like a little stupid. I also remember my father saying something really, really stupid, like, "Oh, well, you know what? You should really just be there and try to learn what you can, really like take that as entrepreneurship." And it really wasn't like that. It was just stacking boxes, being supervised. And even like my supervisors and whoever was supposed to be like, because with these things they would have like a person from the school like actually babysit us and watch us work, really, to make sure that we're not messing it up. But it was a situation where I didn't where like the people who were watching me actually really didn't do anything because they're like, oh well, I know how to take care of myself. I just think there's a point where they actually didn't come with me because it's like saying it's just a waste of time, really. But it pissed me off a lot because I was kind of like, it's stupid in a way because sometimes there's two things about it. That sometimes you have parents who are very arrogant, narcissistic, egotistical, and they're kind of like idiots in a way where they're like, okay. And as I said, you have a kid that is, has a job that they're going to like 3 or 4 days a week. Um, after school, they have to walk to and from work. They have a lot of responsibilities, and that's their regular part-time after school job. And then they're in high school, actually going to a special needs program where it's teaching people how to do job training and other stuff like that. And it's just stupid because it's like, why do I need that, when it's not helpful? And I also understand the other side of it, which is that's how the school and everybody makes money because they're like, okay, you know what, we need to take your kid, we need to put them in all these programs, even if it's not necessary for them, because that's how the school makes their money. Because they'll be like, hey, it keeps the program, it keeps everybody in there. So we have some kids who are special needs and they actually just don't need it. We're gonna put them in there because that way, these programs still exist and whatever, really. And that's not good, but it's exploitation, really. The other part of it that was really stupid, and I wanted to knock my dad in the head for this, is that they gave us paychecks, and if you work like a month, you would be making like $16 really. And first of all, I looked up like minimum wage in Connecticut in 2005. I think for kids or something like, I think it was making like $7 or $8 an hour when I worked at Bishop's Orchards. But someone's working like a month or two and they're getting like a $16 check really. And you have like a teacher that wanted to smack across the head and they said, oh, don't spend that $16 in all one place. Or my dad's like looking at my paycheck. Imagine if this was a paycheck, and my dad was like doing this. He was like, $16. That's a lot of money. You should be proud of yourself. I should have not slapped my dad in the head for that, because like that's the most retarded thing in the world. You're teaching your kid, oh well, $16 for working like a month or two. These are almost like prison wages in a sense. Like I probably did like maybe how should I probably say this? Maybe like 40 or hours of work for $16. That's like a prison wage, because I know they pay them cents on the dollar in prison, really. But it's like stupid in a sense, that you have your parents like like saying well, that's a big accomplishment, making like 16, $17 a week, 16, $17 at a job that I'm at a job, and you're working like 2 or 3 months and they're paying you like maybe every 2 or 3 months, $16, $17, maybe like $8 a month or something like that. But it kind of goes down to like this stupidity. Um, or like maybe parents do this too. They try to be encouraging, but sometimes they may become idiots with how they're encouraging you. Like if you're working at a job and you have a paycheck and it's like $16, $17, and your parents are like saying, "Wow, that's amazing," really. That's stupid. And then the other part of it is, you got parents saying, "We're gonna put this in a bank account. I'm gonna teach you how to budget and save." Budget and save with $16. Get the fuck out of here. Like, what kind of part of my language retard talk is that, really? What kind of retard talk is that? And then also too, don't I or am I also working at Bishop's Orchards and I'm probably making maybe like $100 or $200 a month really, and there's no talks with that really. And then also my dad did the communist thing where it's almost like he never ever let me spend any of my money. I never saw any of that money. But the only time I ever spent, quote unquote, spent money was when my girlfriend I took my girlfriend to the prom, and the $500 of that money went to a limousine. But obviously, that teaches kids to be a simp. Oh, spend money on your bitch, but don't spend money on yourself, really. So it highlights a bunch of issues. That happens a lot in public education, where it's like, okay, we got to pull the kids together, really. So if they're special needs, and let's say they have a job, or let's say they're working on their parents' house, because some parents will say, okay, you know what? If a if a parent has a job being a contractor, if a parent has a job in filmmaking and they want their kids to be a model, if a parent has a job where they're an actor and they want their kids to be extras and whatever, if parents have jobs where if parents have jobs like my dad worked for the state of Connecticut and I was an intern there, or you have parents that have friends and they're like, okay, you know what, Byron, my dad's on City Hall, so is one of the owners of Bishop's Orchards. They're both on City Hall. That's how I got that job there. How the fuck is it appropriate for you, for any child, to be in a special needs program to say, hey, you know what, I need to actually, be in a program where they're trying to train me on how to be responsible at a job when I'm already responsible at a job in the first place. Mind you, I'm not making any money, but I've also said the other thing too, where more than likely the main reason why they did that was because they wanted to do shit like say, hey, you know what, we want to make money off this kid. So that's why he's working at, that's why he's working here. Because we want to do something like, that's why he's working here, because we want to do something like, make money off of him. That way Page's Hardware and all these other places like Subway, they look good by hiring special needs people. They also look good because, you know what, they're getting free work out of this. The school looks good because, they keep their budget of job training and whatever, really, But it's ultimately taking advantage of a kid, and also having parents who are idiots by saying shit like, oh, well, you know what, treat it like an internship when it's actually just, stocking paint cans, just but fortunately too, if I had kids and they had mental health issues, I really don't know what I would do. If they were just like me, where they had some issues to work on, I'll make sure that those are the issues that they work on. But I would not do something like say, oh well, they have part-time jobs, they're doing well at part-time jobs in their personal life. Oh well, I'm going to put them in a vocational special needs class. I understand that there's some schools that'll say, okay, that's child abuse, that's child neglect, and whatever, and then you got to do research on schools and say, oh, I'm going to pull my kid out and talk to them and say, hey, they're doing this shit, and that's not right because why should you waste your time like that? Why should you waste your time in special education or take you out of special education? Because why do you need that when why do you need that when they're putting you in things that are not appropriate for you? Such as, you already have a job and you're doing well and you're following the rules of your job, you're doing well at your part-time job, and you're making maybe over 1,000, maybe like you're making over like $100 a month, really, working 3 or 4 days a week, and now you're getting a job where they're paying you $16, and you're being monitored or whatever. Really, get the fuck out of here.